Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let's chant one round of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता एज इट इज की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam for All session. We are going to memorize a new verse today from Bhagavad Gita. We are going to start chapter 10. We completed chapter 9. Congratulations. So now we are going to begin with chapter 10. Let me see what's the memorization verse. What's 934? Anyone remember the last verse of 9th chapter? 934.
Mataji, I can try.
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Man mana man bhakto madhyachi namaskaru.
Mame Vaishyasi.
Mame vyasna. Mame. Sorry.
Mame Vaishyasi Yuktvaivam Atmanam Matparayana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Engage your mind always in thinking about me. Offer your obeisances to me. Worship me. What was the other one? Engage your mind always thinking about, become my devotee. Offer your obeisances to me. And worship me.
And you'll surely come to me, right?
Yes. What's the second half? 1 second. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. No, that's the previous one. This one. Yeah. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This is the way to go to Krishna. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. And the next memorization verse is 10:2. I'll just open it in, or today we'll just recite from here. Sometimes there's some slight changes in in the sentence formation. So just so there is no confusion, I just open it in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we are doing 10:2. Please repeat. Name viduh suraganaha prabhavam nama harshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Name viduh suraganaha prabhavam nama harshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Name viduh suraganaha prabhavam nama harshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Okay, so you can start reciting now. Does anyone need to go first? So we can go in order. Achutpriya Mataji, will you start?
Yes, Mata. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Dandavat Pranam.
All glorious to Assembled Lord. Hare Krishna Mataji. Name vidu suragana prabhavana mahashaya aham hadirhi devanam mahashinam cha sarvashaha. Translation by Sutta Swami. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Thank you, Mataji. Krishna.
Achintadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat, Prabhuji. Name viduh suragana
Name viduh suraganaha
prabhavam nama harshayaha
Prabhavam na maharshaya.
Aham adirhi devanam
Aham adirhi devanam.
maharshinam cha sarvashaha.
Maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Translation. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Aditi Lata Mataji and Arunita.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Name Vidya Suragana Prabhavam Namaheshaya Ahamadir Hi Devana
Maharshinam.
Mahershinam Cha Sarvasyaha. Translation. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or appearances, for in every respect I am the source of the demigod sages and sages.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suragana prabhavan namahashaya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages.
Thank you, Mataji. Inba, Inya, Jai Shri Mataji, Jai Ganesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Inya.
Name Vidu Suragana Prabhavam Namaharshayah Aham Adir Hi Devanam Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigod and sages.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Inba.
Namedu Suragana Prabhavam Namahashayah Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Chasarvashaha. Translation. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages.
Yes. Prabhuji, Mataji are not there?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suragana prabhavam maharshaya aham adiri devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Translation goes to Srila Prabhupada. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam, Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name Vidu Suragana Prabhavam Na Mahar Sayah Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Madhava. Name Vidu Prabhavam.
Prabhavam Namarsya Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharsanam Sarvasa. Neither the hosts of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages.
Yes. Okay. Who is next? Kalpesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suragana prabhavam nam maharashaya aham adirhi devanam maharishenam cha sarvasha. Translation. Neither the of demigods, nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name viduhu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayah aham adir devanam maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Translation: neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, next is Medha Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Translation: neither of the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Medha, if you're not ready, you're ready. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Name viduhu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Translation: neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages.
Yeah. Next is Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu, Suvarnangi Mataji, Suhrit Spurti.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshayah aham adhirhi devanam maharsinam cha sarvashah. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Neither the hosts of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulence, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Others are not there.
Okay. Priyanka Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages.
Saujanya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Name vidhu suragana prabhavam na maharshaya aham adir devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Did anyone not recite yet? Everyone has recited. So this is the beginning of chapter 10. And if you look at the previous verse, So you'll understand here the main word is this Prabhavam. Prabhavam means the Lord's opulences. So the chapters previous to this, in the 7th and 9th chapters, Krishna had told Arjun about his opulences. You remember in the 7th chapter, Krishna started with Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu, right? First he said, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatam Api Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Veti Tatvata. And before that he said, Jnanam Teham Sa Vijnanam Idam Vakshyam Yasheshataha Yaj Gyatva Neha Bhuyon Yaj Gyatavyam Avashishyate. So I'm going to give you that knowledge, after knowing which you don't have anything else remaining. And also he said in the very first verse, I will give you knowledge of both the phenomenal and numinous. So then he started telling about his opulences. In the 7th chapter, he explained his opulences, the material energy, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kammano Buddhi Revacha. And after that, Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo. And again in the 9th chapter, Krishna told about his opulences. Why Krishna told about his opulences to Arjun? Why Krishna is speaking about opulences to Arjun? Again, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken for all of us conditioned souls. Yes? So, hearing about the Lord's opulences is essential for a sadhaka. So we are trying to enter into sadhana bhakti. We are trying to practice sadhana. What we are doing now is also sadhana only, sadhana bhakti, but it becomes shuddha sadhana bhakti when we meet the conditions of shuddha bhakti. But what we are doing now is also bhakti, sadhana bhakti, but it is not shuddha vaidi sadhana bhakti. Shuddha, it becomes when you meet the conditions of ananya bhakti, then it becomes shuddha sadhana bhakti. So for sadhakas, those who are practicing sadhana bhakti, this hearing about the Lord's opulences is very important. Why? Because it gives them pleasure, certainly. It gives them great happiness. And also, it increases our shraddha in Krishna. It increases our shraddha. For us, we still need to get Purna Shraddha, isn't it? Why we should only worship Krishna? So therefore, it is very important for us to hear the greatness of Krishna. But after one enters, even in sadhana bhakti, one Shuddha sadhana bhakti, when one starts Shuddha sadhana bhakti, there also actually it's important for sadhakas to keep hearing about Krishna's Aishwarya. This Aishwarya Gyan is important. But once one enters into higher stages of bhakti, like after crossing the nishta stage and they get into ruchi and then asakti, like that they further progress. So they come into ruchi stage, then they will hear mostly Krishna's leela, his leela. But before that, it is essential to hear about Krishna's Aishwarya. And for sadhakas, hearing about Aishwarya gives great happiness. That's why it gives great pleasure. That's why Krishna is speaking his opulence again and again. In the 7th chapter we heard, again in the 9th chapter we heard. And now here I'll show you the first verse of this chapter. Yeah. We look at the first verse. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya. Bhuya eva mahabaho shrinu me paramam vachaha yatteham priyamanaya vakshami hita kamyaya. Bhuya means once again. Once again. That means I have already told you about my opulences, but for your sake, I am going to repeat about my opulences. I'm going to tell you again about my opulences. Bhuya. And another word is paramam. Paramam means not only I'm going to repeat whatever I said before, but I will tell you something more, something higher than what I spoke so far. Okay. So bhuya means I'm going to repeat what was said already, my opulences. But apart from repeating, I will also tell you something higher, that is paramam. And here Krishna says Shrinu. Shrinu means listen. Arjun is already listening. Then why Krishna is saying Shrinu? Shrinu means this will require more attention on your part. That's why Krishna is saying Shrinu, pay more attention now. You're listening, but now listen even more attentively. Why? Because this 10th chapter is said in an indirect way. So the verses that are spoken in the 10th chapter, they are not direct. They are said in an indirect way. Earlier, Krishna directly says, this is my opulence, I am this and I am that. But here, Krishna speaks about his opulences only, but in an indirect way. So then you may get a question, why Krishna is... So that means it will need more attention. It will need more attention. You will figure that out. You will see that. And also, because you remember 9th and 10th chapters, they are the cream of all creams. I told this many times in the past, but I will repeat it again. Of all the Vedas, of all the scriptures, whatever subjects are there, they are all very expertly given in the Mahabharata by Vyasadeva. Whatever is there, all the subjects are covered in Mahabharata by Srila Vyasadeva. And within that Mahabharata, the essence, the cream of that whole Mahabharata is put into Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. One is Nishkam Karma Yoga, first 6 chapters. Middle 6 chapters is Bhakti Yoga. Last 6 chapters is Jnana Yoga. So this middle 6 chapters are the cream of Bhagavad Gita. And within the middle 6 chapters, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 9 and 10 are the cream of all creams. Both of them, both 9 and 10. So therefore, Krishna is saying, pay more attention now, Shrinu. And also he's going to speak in an indirect way, right? So then you may get the next question, then why Krishna is speaking only to Arjun? So in the past also Krishna said, Anasuyave, because you are not envious of me, I'm going to speak to you. And also later we will hear Krishna says Bhaktosi, right? Because you're my devotee. And here also Krishna is saying Priyamanaya, because you're very dear to me. Because you're very dear to me, I'm going to tell you about my opulences. So that is the background of this 10th chapter. This 10th chapter is going to talk about the opulences of Krishna. And today, so we are not going to go over each and every verse. We are only memorizing the verses here. But even while memorizing, it is good to understand the meaning. So the verse will remain. So Name Viduhu Suraganaha. Viduhu means no. Na. Name Viduhu Sura. Suragana means the gods, demigods. Prabhavam means opulence. Maharshi. Maharshi means the sages. So Prabhavam is my opulence. My opulence is not known even to the demigods or the sages. That's the point. Okay. So I'm telling you about my opulence, and this opulence is not even known to the demigods and the sages. Aham adirhi devana maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Because I am the origin, Adi, of even the demigods and maharshis. So just like if you are born, we are all born to our parents. So is it possible for me to know about the birth of my father and mother unless I hear from someone? It's not possible. Somebody who was there at that time can tell me. My grandmother can tell me, oh, when your father was born, these were the conditions, so on and so forth. But how can I know? So Krishna is saying, I am the Adi. I am the beginning of the demigods and rishis. So therefore they don't know about me. Like that. So further discussions we will discuss in the next days, coming days. Now let's read Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 1. Yes. We were reading this 9th chapter, if you all remember, is about the descendants of who? Whose descendants are we reading about? Anyone remembers? Whose descendants are we reading about in the 9th canto?
Swayambhu.
Vaivasvata Manu. At least you said Manu. Thank you. Vaivasvata Manu. Thank you, Mataji.
I
Yeah.
forgot Manu, but then I got like.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the 7th Manvantara. So we are reading about the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. So yeah, I'll just for your to once again give you a revision, we'll just quickly go over what we read so far. So we saw how Satyavrata Maharaj became Shraddha Deva Vaivasvata Manu, and Parikshit Maharaj asked a question here. He said, please, you have elaborately described all the periods of various Manus, and within those periods, wonderful activities of the Supreme Lord. Then he said, yeah, I also understand that such kings as Ikshwaku were his sons. So, yeah, how Satyavrata Maharaj became Vaivasvata Manu, you said. And then for the next Manvantara, and his son is Ikshwaku and others. Kindly describe, this is Parikshit Maharaj's question, kindly describe to us separately the dynasties and characteristics of all those kings. So the dynasties and characteristics of those kings. So that is the subject matter of this entire 9th canto. This 9th canto is dealing specifically, the whole 9th canto is talking about the descendants, the dynasties descending from Vaivasvata Manu. We are in Vaivasvata Manvantara. Parikshit Maharaj wants to know about all the descendants coming in this from Vaivasvata Manu. See, Parikshit Maharaj is a pure devotee. In the beginning of the 2nd canto, the very first verse, Sukadev Goswami glorifies Parikshit Maharaj for his questions, because your questions are, the answers to these questions are the prime subject matter to be heard by all people. What is the subject matter that everyone should hear about? You should, that question was also asked by Parikshit Maharaj. What should we hear? What should we speak, chant? What should we chant? What should we remember? And what should we worship? So in answer to that, Sukadev Goswami said, you should hear about the glories, activities, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was the answer. So when Parikshit Maharaj is asking a question, certainly there will be something which is going to indicate towards, take us, the answer will have to do with speaking with the glories of the Supreme Lord, isn't it? So here also, if Parikshit Maharaj is asking that, please tell me about, I want to know about the dynasties and about the kings who are coming in Vaivasvata Manu. What could be his purpose of asking? Where is this leading to? So you will see that Vaivasvata Manu, Vaivasvata Manu is the son of whom? Tell me. Vaivasvata Manu is whose son? Why is he called Vaivasvata?
Vivaswan,
Vivaswan. Who is Vivaswan?
Sun
God.
Sun God. So
Sun God.
what dynasty will this be? Vaivasvata Manu's descendants. Which dynasty will this be?
Vivaswan,
Surya Vamsa, Sun dynasty. So up to, I think, up to about the 13th chapter of the 9th canto, we will be talking about the Surya Vamsa, the Sun dynasty, all the kings that are coming. So just like Krishna says in the 4th chapter, remember, Ivam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayan Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ikshvakave Bravit. So from Vivasvan, Manave, Manu. Which Manu? This Manu that we are talking about, Vaivasvata Manu. From Vivasvan, Manu got it. Manu gave it to his son Ikshvaku, like that. So now Parikshit Maharaj wants to hear about Ikshvaku and other sons and their descendants. So he wants to hear that parampara, that descendants coming, the Sun dynasty, descending from Sun. Somewhere down the line, the Sun dynasty, then we will see how they are actually connected to the moon dynasty. And then the rest of the canto will talk about the Chandra Vamsa, the moon dynasty. But that is not all. There is one more point here. The sun dynasty description ends with the description of Lord Ramchandra. So there you see, Avatara Katha is coming. Parikshit Maharaj wants to hear about the Supreme Lord. So the Sun dynasty's description will end with the description of Lord Ramchandra. And then the Moon dynasty is described. And towards the end of the 9th canto, the Moon dynasty that 9th canto will end with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna coming in the Moon dynasty. So that is the reason. And then that leads us to the 10th canto. And the 10th canto is nothing but the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So now let's go back. So Parikshit Maharaj had asked a question, describe to us separately the dynasties and characteristics of all those kings, for we are always eager to hear such topics from you. Then kindly tell us about the abilities of all the celebrated kings born in the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, including those who have already passed, those who may appear in future, and those who exist at present. All. I want to hear about all the kings that have come in the past, that are there now, and that will come in the future, who are the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. Then Sutta Goswami began his talk. So first of all, again, he just began to talk. He said that now hear from me in great detail about the dynasty of Manu. I shall explain as much as possible because it is not possible to speak everything. Even if one had 100 years, it's not possible to speak everything, but I will tell you as far as possible about the dynasties and about the kings descending from Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. The transcendental supreme person, the super soul of all living entities, who are in different statuses of life, high and low, existed at the end of the millennium when neither this manifested cosmos nor anything else but him existed. So that Supreme Lord existed. When everything else was annihilated, only the Supreme Lord existed. What is everything else? All the living entities, this entire manifestation. It gets annihilated. At that time, only the Supreme Lord existed. And before the creation and after annihilation, he exists. And then when it's time for next creation, from the navel of the Supreme Lord, a golden lotus is generated, and on which four-headed Lord Brahma is born. And from Lord Brahma, Marichi is born. And Marichi's son is Kashyapa. And Kashyapa married Aditi. And Kashyapa and Aditi had Vivaswan amongst the other Adityas. And Vivaswan married Sangya, and they had a son Shraddhadev. Shraddhadev married Shraddha, and at first they didn't have any children, so they performed yagya. Vashishta Muni performed yagya for them to please the demigods Mitra and Varuna. And she was practicing Payovrata at that time, Shraddha. And when it was time for offering oblations, Shraddha went to the priest who was offering the oblations, and she said, I don't want a son. So this whole sacrifice was being performed for a son. She goes to the priest and says, I don't want a son, I want a daughter. So when the priest is offering oblations, he remembered the request of Shraddha, the wife of Shraddhadev or Vaivasvata Manu. And then he chanted mantras for a girl, right? He said Vashat. And then he got, a baby was born, a girl was born to Manu and Shraddha. So at first, because they didn't have any children, when the baby was first born, Manu was very happy, right? And he named that daughter Ila. But then later on, he thought, but we performed this yagya to get a son. How did it happen that instead of son, I got a daughter? Because his purpose of having a son is to continue the dynasty. The dynasty continues with the son, isn't it? The daughter marries someone else and she assists in continuing her husband's dynasty. But father's dynasty goes forward with a son. So he doesn't have a son. So, and he performed this yagya, such great rishis, Vashishta Muni, he performed with all his, associates. How did this mistake happen? So he was not satisfied. Hmm. So he spoke to Vashishta Muni as follows. He said, "My lord, all of you are expert in chanting the Vedic mantras. How then has the result been opposite to the one desired? This is a matter of lamentation." Right? What is the matter of lamentation? Of course, you got the opposite result, that is there, but how can there be any discrepancy in you? You are also highly qualified in chanting mantras in your purity. When you perform a yagya, how is it possible that the results can be reversed? Isn't it? The results are reversed when there is a fault. How can there be any fault in you? How did we get the opposite results? This is a matter of great lamentation, like that. There should not have been such a reversal of the results of the Vedic mantras. So that's what we saw, and Srila Prabhupada gave an elaborate purport on that. We discussed it the other day, that no other yagyas are, because this yagya it gave an opposite result. So Srila Prabhupada explained how yagyas in Kali Yuga, right? Yagyas are not successful. The only yagya that is successful in Kali Yuga is Hari Sankirtan. That's the only yagya, and it gives you the highest result. And only intelligent people can understand, can take to this Sankirtan yagya. That is also said. So now we will go to the next verse. Do you remember who's supposed to read today? Anyone remembers? Or did I send a reminder? If you remember, tell me. Otherwise, I'll look at the reminder. Looks like we didn't send a reminder. So, where should we start? Okay. Inba, did you read the other day?
I don't think so, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead. Start. यूयं ब्रह्मविदो युक्तास् तपसा दग्धकिल्बिषाः कुतः सङ्कल्पवैषम्यम् अनृतं विबुधेष्विव. Go ahead.
You are all self-controlled, well-balanced in mind, and aware of the absolute truth. And because of austerities and penances, you are completely cleansed of all material contamination. Your words, like those of the demigods, are never baffled. Then how is it possible that your determination has failed?
Yes. Inia, read the purport.
We have learned from many Vedic literatures that a benediction or curse given by the demigods never proves false. By performing austerities and penances, by controlling the senses and the mind, and by achieving full knowledge of the absolute truth, one is fully cleansed of material contamination. Then one's words and blessings, like those of the demigods, are never a failure.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the king, Vaivasvat Manu, speaking to Vashishta Muni. You are all self-controlled, well-balanced in mind, and aware of the absolute truth. And because of austerities and penances, you are completely cleansed of all material contamination. Your words, like those of the demigods, are never baffled. Then how is it possible that your determination has failed? You were determined to obtain a son for me from this yagya, but it failed. You got some other result. How did it happen? Where was the fault? There's no question in your purity, in your austerities. Your mind is controlled. You are aware of the Supreme. You're such an exalted sage. Then how is it possible? I'm not able to understand that your determination has failed. Prabhupada is saying, we have learned from many Vedic literatures that a benediction or curse given by the demigods never proves false. Yes. By performing austerities and penances, by controlling the senses and mind, and by achieving full knowledge of absolute truth, one is fully cleansed of material contamination. Then one's words and blessings, like those of the demigods, are never a failure. So, what is Srila Prabhupada saying? That when the demigods, they say something, it comes true. And that is also true in the case of someone who performs tapasya or who does his, dharma very strictly, right? Who performs tapasya, they get some power by adhering to their dharma, by their austerity, by their chastity. Like you hear about pativrata women, right? They also get power. By that, the brahmacharis also get power by adhering to their particular dharma strictly. They get powers, and also by performing austerities. Then when you get power, when you utter a statement, then that will become true. It cannot be false. It cannot be false. Just see how powerful is truth. But in Kali Yuga, because that's the last leg of dharma which is still there, but we know it's wobbling. It's wobbling. That last leg of dharma, which is truthfulness, that is also wobbling. So, yeah. And about devotees also, Srila Prabhupada said, I think, I cannot exactly quote, but I think something like, if anyone remembers, you can help me. Something like for 15 years or something, if you don't miss a single Mangalarti, right? And if you chant 16 rounds, then whatever you say will come true. It's true, because again, the principle is the same. You're adhering to that particular dharma. What is the dharma here? Of course, this is devotional service, and you are carrying out the order of the spiritual master strictly, right? Then you also will become like the demigods. When they say something, it becomes true. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So these are all very exalted sages like Vashishta Muni. Then they say something, then it should come true. It will come true. How is it that your words became false? That was his question. Nishamya tadvachastasya Bhagavan prapitamaha oturvyatikramam gyatva babhashe ravinandanam. Inba or Inya Inba read. Jai Ganesh Prabhu and Jai Shri Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. The most powerful great grandfather Vasishta, after hearing these words of Manu, understood the discrepancy on the part of the priest. Thus he spoke as follows to the son of the sun god.
Yeah. So when Vaivasvata Manu or Shraddhadev asked Vashishta Muni, he could, because he's a Brahma Rishi, right? He's a very advanced sage. He's a Saptarishi also. So he said that he could immediately detect what happened, where was the discrepancy. He could understand. It was on part of the priest who was pouring the oblations. So understanding that, Vashishta Muni spoke to Vaivasvata Manu. एतत् संकल्प वैषम्यं होतुस्ते व्यभिचारतः तथापि साध्ययिष्येते सुप्रजास्त्वं स्वतेजसा. Prabhuji.
This discrepancy in the objective is due to your priest's deviation from the original purpose. However, by my own prowess, I shall give you a good son.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So, Vaivasvata Manu had his priests. His priests were doing the offering, and Vashishta Muni is the chief, right? He's the chief. He's sitting there guiding everyone. But those priests were Vaivasvata Manu's priests. So Vashishta Muni is saying he could understand what happened. He said the discrepancy in the objective. What is the objective? To get a son. But instead of son, we got a daughter. So the discrepancy in the objective is due to your priest's deviation from the original purpose. Right? He did something. Vyabhicharata. Vyabhicharata means deviating from the prescribed purpose. Because your priest has deviated from the original purpose, he chanted a different mantra asking for a daughter. This discrepancy has occurred, but don't worry. By my own prowess, I will give you a good son. Evam vyavasito rajan Bhagavan samahayashaha astaushid adi purusham ilayah pumstva kamyaya. So Madhava, Rasapriya, Krishna, Shisha. Anybody's there?
Srila Goswami said, O King Pariksit, after the most famous and powerful Vasishtha made the decision, he offered prayers to the Supreme Person, Vishnu, to transform Eva into a male.
So what did Vashishta Muni do? Sukadev Goswami is saying, O King Parikshit, after the most famous and powerful Vashishta made this decision, he offered prayers to the Supreme Person Vishnu to transform Ila into a male. So it was a daughter who was born, but by his power, Vashishta Muni, he prayed to the Supreme Lord to change this girl to a boy, make this girl into a boy. Tasmai kama varam tushto Bhagavan Haririshwaraha Dadav ila bhavattena Sudyumnaha Purusharshabhaha. Okay, anyone else is there? Krishna, Shish, Rasapriya. Okay, quickly.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, being pleased with Vasistha, gave him the benedicts that he desired. Thus,
Ila
Ila was transformed into a very fine male named
Sudyumna.
Sudyumna.
So Lord Vishnu was pleased when Vashishta Muni prayed to Lord Vishnu to change this girl into a boy. Lord Vishnu was pleased with Vashishta, so he fulfilled his desire, his prayer, and because of Lord Vishnu's benediction, this girl Ila became a boy and was named Sudyumna. Sudyumna. Sa ekada Maharaja vicharan mrigayam vane vritah katipayamatyayir ashvam aruhya saindhavam pragrihya ruchiram chapam sharamscha paramadbhutan damshito numrigam viro jagamadishamuttaram. Okay, anyone? Krishna Shish is here. Kalpesh Prabhu.
O king of Parikshit, that hero Sudyumna, accompanied by a few ministers and associates, and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesha, once went into the forest to hunt. He wore armor and was decorated with bows and arrows, and he was very beautiful. While following the animals and killing them, he reached to the northern part of the forest.
Yes. So this king Sudyumna, so this boy, Vaivasvata Manu's son, Sudyumna, he grew up, right? He became a great hero. So that hero Sudyumna, accompanied by a few ministers and associates, and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesha. So this horse is brought from Sindhu Pradesha. He was riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesha. And the ministers and associates, maybe they're also from Sindhu Pradesha. But he's accompanied by ministers, other associates, and he's riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesh. And where did he go? He's riding and going where? Once he went into the forest along with all his associates, ministers. He went into the forest to hunt. And how was he? He wore an armor and was decorated with bows and arrows, and he was very beautiful. While following the animals, because he's hunting, he's chasing after the animals and killing them. While following the animals and killing them, he reached the northern part of the forest. What happened there? Sukumaravanam Meror Adhastat Praviveshaha Yatraste Bhagavan Charvo Ramamanaha Sahomaya. Sonia Mataji.
There in the north, at the bottom of Mount Meru, is a forest known as Sukumara, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudyumna entered that forest.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So in the north, at the bottom of Mount Meru, is a forest known as Sukumara, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudyumna entered that forest. Okay. So while going hunting in the forest, he reached the northern part, and that part of the forest is called Sukumara, and there Lord Shiva resided with Parvati Devi. He enjoyed with Parvati Devi, and Sudyumna entered that forest with all his associates. Tasmin pravishta evasau Sudyumnah paraviraha apashyat striyam atmanam ashvam cha vadavam nripa. Next is Medha and Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. O King Parikshit, as soon as Sudyumna, who was expert in subduing enemies, entered the forest, he saw himself transformed into a female, and his horse transformed into a mare.
So surprisingly, while they were hunting and going, and as soon as they entered into this forest, this area of the forest called the Sukumara, as soon as he entered, he saw that he became a woman, and his horse also became a mare, a female horse. Tatha tad anugah sarve atmalinga viparyayam drishtva vimanaso bhuvan vikshamana parasparam. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, sorry, I'm driving much.
No problem. Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
When his followers also saw their identities transformed and their sex reversed, and they were all very morose and just looked at one another.
So the king, Sudyumna, his horse, and all his ministers and all his associates, they were all men. As soon as they entered into this forest, they all became women. And they became very sad because they were all, powerful Kshatriyas. And they looked at each other in great, shock. What happened? They became morose. Sri Rajo Vacha Katham Evam Guno Deshaha Kena Va Bhagavan Kritaha Prashnam Enam Samachakshva Param Kautu Halam Hinaha. Prabhuji, others are there? Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
They are
Hare
there?
Krishna.
Yeah. Yes,
Then
Mataji.
Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Yes, Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. Maharaj Parikshit said, O most powerful Brahmana, why was this place so empowered and who made it so powerful? Kindly answer this question, for I am very eager to hear about this.
Yes. So Parikshit Maharaj is listening to Sukadev Goswami. Parikshit Maharaj's question was, tell me about the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. So Sukadev Goswami started narrating how Vaivasvata Manu got a daughter instead of a son, and that, by Vashishta Muni's prayers, that daughter became a son again from Ila. He became Sudyumna, and now Sudyumna grew up, and one day he went into the forest hunting, and there when he entered this particular forest, all of a sudden he became a woman. And his horse also became a female. And all the associates, all the ministers, everyone became females. So then Parikshit Maharaj became very intrigued. How come? So why was this place so empowered? What is the history behind this place? That as soon as a male enters that place, he becomes a female. Even animals. That's why the horse is also specifically mentioned there. Anyone, bird, animal, insect, whoever goes there, nobody can retain their their masculinity. I don't know, is there a word like that? They cannot retain their male power. They all become females there. Why was this place so empowered? And who made it like this? What is the story behind this? Who made it so powerful? Please answer this question. I'm very eager to hear about this. Sri Shuka Uvacha Ekada Girisham Drashtum Rishayastatra Suvrataha Disho Vitimirabhasaha Kurvantaha Samupagamam. Suhrit Spurti are there?
No, Mataji.
Okay. So next,
It's me,
Priyanka
Mataji.
Mataji.
Oh, sorry.
Priyanka Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Shukdev Goswami answered, great saintly persons who strictly observe the spiritual rules and regulations and whose own effulgence dissipated all the darkness of all directions, once came to see Lord Shiva in that forest.
So then Sukadeva Goswami started narrating why this place is so powerful. Who did that? Right? Sukadeva Goswami is explaining. Great saintly persons who strictly observe the spiritual rules and regulations and whose own effulgence dissipates all the darkness of all directions once came to see Lord Shiva in that forest. So great sadhus, very, very powerful sadhus who are very, very effulgent. They came to see Lord Shiva in this forest once upon a time. Tan vilokyambika devi vivasa viridita, vivasa vridita bhrisham. Again. Tan vilokyambika devi vivasa vridita bhrisham bhartur ankat samuthaya nivim ashvatha paryadhat. Next is Saujanya Mataji.
When the goddess Ambika saw the great saintly persons, she was very much ashamed because at that time she was naked. She immediately got up from the lap of her husband and tried to cover her breast. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Lord Shiva was in this forest with Parvati Devi and they were enjoying. So at that time the sages came to see Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi was not in a proper situation. So therefore she became very embarrassed to see all these sages at that time. So she just got up and she covered herself. ऋषयोऽपि तयोर्वीक्ष्य प्रसङ्गं रममाणयोः निवृत्ता प्रययुस्तस्मान् नरनारायणाश्रमम्. So now Achyut Priya Mataji. So Mataji, the confusion is happening because Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu got initiated. He was before Shiva Kumar Prabhu. So therefore his name was coming in the end. Now he's Narsimha Leela Chaitanya Prabhu. So he's gone up now with N. That's why.
Yes, Mataji, I understand. Because it was always coming after them, that's why when you said, who next, that's why I said.
Yeah, I understood, Mataji. Go ahead.
Seeing Lord Shiva and Parvati engaged in sexual affairs, all the great saintly persons immediately desisted from going further and departed for the ashrama of Naranarayan. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, Naranarayan. So the sages also, they felt embarrassed. They are the supreme father and mother, right? So when they came and they saw Lord Shiva, Parvati Devi in that condition, they felt embarrassed themselves, right? So they immediately didn't go any further. They turned around and they walked away and they went to Naranarayan Rishi's ashram instead. They didn't come and talk to Lord Shiva. Tad idam bhagavan aha प्रियायाः प्रियकाम्यया स्थानं यः प्रविशेदेतत् स वै योषिद् भवेदिति. Achintadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Translation. Thereupon, just to please his wife, Lord Shiva said, any male entering this place shall immediately become a female. Thank you, Mataji.
Because Parvati Devi was very embarrassed, right? So when the sages came, she became so embarrassed. So to pacify Parvati Devi, Lord Shiva said that from now on, because this is your private place, right? So no one else should come here. So if any male enters here, immediately he will be turned into a female. That was so this place, this Sukumara forest, how did it become so powerful? By the order of Lord Shiva, by the by the statement of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva said that anyone who enters from now onwards, any male who enters this forest, immediately he will become a female. So that's the history. That's why King Sudyumna and his horse and everyone else became females. Tata Tata urdhvam vanam tadvai purusha varjayantihi sachanuchara samyukta vichachara vanadvanam. Arunita?
I'll read Mataji.
Yeah.
Since that time, no male had entered that forest. But now, King Sudyumna, having been transformed into a female, began to walk with his associates from one forest to another.
So that's the history. Sukadev Goswami said why they turned into a woman, because Lord Shiva had said. So now coming back to the present, King Sudyumna became a woman, his horse and his ministers. How they will go back to the kingdom? What will they do as women? Right? Because they will have their wives and, now they'll go back as women. And he's a king since that time. So since that time means since the curse of Lord Shiva, not curse or his, you can say his statement, his order, since that time, no male ever entered that forest because everyone was aware that if we go there, we'll become females. So no male ever entered that forest. But now King Sudyumna, having been transformed into a female, began to walk with his associates from one forest to another. They're just wandering in that forest now as females. Purport. Arunita is there?
Yes, Mataji, you'll read. Give me a second.
Yeah. She'll be the last person to read today. And I think everyone has read, right? Did anyone not read yet? Everyone has read. Yeah, you'll read. Go ahead.
Okay. In Bhagavad Gita 2.22, it is said, Vasmasi jirnasi.
Listen. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. Like that.
Vasani jirnani yatha vidhaya.
Navani grihnati naroparani.
Navani grihnati naroparani. Tata shatira.
Vihaya jirnani.
Vihaya jirnani. Anani samyanti navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old one, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The body is just like a dress, and here this is proved. Sudhamaya and his associates, Sudyumna and all his associates were male, which meant that their souls were covered by a male dress. But now they became female, which means their dress was changed. Their soul, however, remains the same. It is said that by modern medical treatment, a male can be transferred into a female, and a female into a male. The body, however, has no connection with the soul. The body can be changed either in this life or the next. Therefore, one who has knowledge of the soul and how the soul transmigrates from one body to another does not pay attention to the body, which is nothing but a covering dress. Pandita Samadarshinaha. Such a person sees the soul, which is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is Samidarshi, a learned person. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So because here it is said that King Sudyumna became a woman and he just kept wandering in those forests. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining this point from Bhagavad Gita, that as a person gives up his old dress to accept a new one, similarly the soul gives up the old and useless bodies to accept new material bodies. That's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. So anyone who is in knowledge of the soul, that I'm not this body, I'm a soul, then he won't pay much attention to I'm a male or you're a female, I'm superior, you're inferior, or other ways also, right? Like because I'm a woman, I will try to seduce the opposite. They won't do this because they will understand this is just a dress. This is not me. I'm a spirit soul. So anyone who is in knowledge, he will not care whether it is male or female, because it's after all just a dress and it has to be changed, whether male or female. But if we become too much, those who are in bodily concept, they will identify themselves with the body and then they will also identify with whether it is male or female, because we think I am a female or I am a male. But you see, even in one life, it is possible to become from male to female and female to male. We saw in the case of Sudyumna. But that does not mean the person has changed. He is still the same person. But externally, the body has changed. Of course, the duties will be different. Functions will be different depending on the body. Just like if you are a cop, a policeman, your duty is different. If you are a doctor, your duty is different. Similarly, according to the body, the duties will be different. If you're a male, the functions, the duties are different. Female, the duties are different. There's no need to compete and prove that we are equal. Because on bodily platform, we are not equal. Each body has its particular functions. There are advantages and disadvantages to all bodies. So there's no need to equate all bodies together, that everyone is equal, because we are not equal. But the fact is, the bodies are just external. The reality is the spirit soul. The spirit souls are all equal. All spirit souls are equal. So if you're really interested in equality, then you rise to the spiritual level, to the level of the soul. Then you will actually be equal. But don't try to find equality on the bodily platform. It will not happen. It will not make you happy. So now we will stop Srimad Bhagavatam reading here, and we will continue tomorrow. And again, Inba will begin. We had one full cycle of reading today, and I'll read Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita now. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. I can bookmark or what? Looks like. Yeah, looks like. Let's see. Yeah, I think we saw this, right? Let me go back. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to. Yeah, that we read. So now we'll read the next one. Please repeat. Swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddha svena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyasya vashopitat. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Purport. If one refuses to act under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. So the Supreme Lord is also directing you according to the modes only, isn't it? As we said, there are prescribed duties given. Where are these prescribed duties coming from? They're given in the scriptures. What are the scriptures? This is, the other day we were discussing Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma means the Supreme Lord in sound form. So the scriptures, the Vedas, the Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the sound vibration, these statements, which also consist of the prescribed duties for each person according to his nature. The work is prescribed according to nature. So if you live your life according to the guidance given by the Supreme Lord, then that work will not bind us. Actually, it will liberate us. It will liberate us. But if we don't listen, if we don't follow the authority of the scriptures, and in this way we don't show our obedience to the Supreme Lord, and if we start living whimsically, then that means you choose what you want to do, right? You have one particular nature and then you say, no, I'll do something else. Even if you're doing within the realm of scriptural injunctions, but not that which is prescribed to you. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtita. Paradharmat swanushtita. What is the third line? Nidhanam shreyaha. Being destruction in the course of performing one's own action is better. Paradharmo bhayavaha. You follow your particular dharma. It is said 2 times this verse comes in Bhagavad Gita. It's better to do your own duties than to follow someone else's duty. Distraction in the course of performing your own duty is better than following another's duty. And what to speak of if you're not following any duty what is given in the scriptures? Krishna is not even saying that you are a kshatriya, at least you do brahmana's duty, it's okay because that's in the scripture. No, according to your nature, what is prescribed to you do that duty. And then what to speak of all the different types of works and duties we come up with coming from our own mental speculation. So many different occupations and duties we came up with, so many activities, different. What will be the result of that? Will we get any promotion? No. So we are all acting under the influence of the modes, but even acting under the influence of the modes, if you agree to follow, live your life according to the Lord's injunction, then you will gradually come out of the influence of the modes. You will actually come out of it by living your life according to the guidance of Krishna. That is the point. But if you don't follow Krishna's instruction, in the case of Arjun, he's a kshatriya, he's saying, I'll give up and I will go and I will do tapasya, right? I will beg, I live like a brahmana. You are saying externally, but your nature is of that of a kshatriya. For now, you will reject what I'm telling you and you'll go and follow something else. But what will you do? Pagal tumi jakhane aa jabe, tomar mon tomar sange jabe, they say, right? So whether you're a goat or you're a madman, wherever you go, or even a sane man, wherever you go, your mind goes with you. What will you do to that? Mind means what? Your swabhava. Your swabhava, your nature is there in your subtle body. What will you do to your swabhava? Externally, I change my dress. I remove my armor and my quiver and arrows. I put on Brahmana's dress. But what will you do with your mind, your swabhava, your nature that's going with you? Because of your swabhava, even though externally you're dressed like this, again you do the same thing because you'll be impelled by your nature. So it's not required for you to copy someone else's work or for you to act whimsically. You live your life according to the scriptural injunctions, and that too you do what is prescribed to you. So now you may get a question, how do we know what is my prescribed duty, right? So it's a whole system. It's a whole system. The whole society has to be reorganized for this. So at an early age, boys are sent to Gurukul, and Guru is trained how to identify the particular varna of that boy. He has different tests, different ways of finding out what is the varna of this boy. And then he will educate that boy according to that varna. So now he is all prepared, well equipped with that, and he can live his life, maintaining his livelihood, but simultaneously he is making progress in spiritual life. Now, after that is established, now there is no question of switching. Now I am, a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, whoever I am. It's not that I think the other's job is better. I like that. Let me go and do. No, just because I like it, oh, my swabhava is that. No. It's not so simple, isn't it? So that's the point here Krishna is making. Let's read the purport again. The translation says, under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same. You will act all the same. All the same means you are rejecting to fight, but again you'll go and fight. Why? Because you're a kshatriya. That's your nature. They will laugh at you when you're walking away, and then you'll get angry and you'll take your arrows and you'll go and fight with them again. But you'll now incur the sin for rejecting to act according to Krishna's instruction, isn't it? If one refuses to act under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting in that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord becomes glorious. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. We'll read a little bit of Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita and I will end. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. Continuation. What were we reading? Yeah, Prabhupada had an interview with the then Vice President, what is his name? Zakir Hussain, right? Yeah, Vice President Zakir Hussain. And he simply, it was a formal thing that, oh, you did a great work and all that, but he was not interested in actually going through, in having a dialogue with Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada then wrote him a letter because he didn't get a chance to actually explain to this vice president. So he actually wrote a letter. Because how is this going to help the world, right? You are showing that, how is your Bhagavatam going to help the whole world? Because he is looking at this Bhagavatam as coming from a particular faith, from a particular religion. How is this actually going to help the whole world, right? You need something which is going to unite the whole world, everyone, something that everyone can relate to. That is the vision of somebody who's at a lower level. He cannot see how Srimad Bhagavatam is the one that is uniting everyone. So for that, he would have to have a dialogue with Srila Prabhupada. He should have given Srila Prabhupada the chance to speak. But yeah, there was no time. So then Srila Prabhupada wrote about that. So now continuation. In March of 1964, Krishna Pandit, Bhaktivedanta Swami's sponsor at the Radha Krishna temple in Chippiwada, arranged for him to reside for a few months at the Sri Radha Vallabhji temple in the nearby Roshanpur, Naisarak neighborhood. There he would continue his writing and publishing, but he would also be giving a series of lectures. Krishna Pandit provided Bhaktivedanta Swami about 1500 rupees for his maintenance. On Bhaktivedanta Swami's arrival at Sri Radha Vallabhji temple, the manager distributed notices inviting people to take full advantage of the presence of a Vaishnava sadhu. As resident Acharya, Bhaktivedanta Swami held morning and evening discourses at the temple without reducing his activities of writing and printing. So he was holding morning and evening classes but not reducing his writing and printing activities. In June, Bhaktivedanta Swami got the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. Just keep in mind the first two cantos, the first canto, first two volumes. Srimad Bhagavatam first canto was written in 3 volumes. The first 2 volumes are done. And Srila Prabhupada is handing them to all these important people in society. In June, Bhaktivedanta Swami got the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. The meeting had been arranged by Doladram Khanna, a wealthy jeweler who was a trustee of the Chippiwada temple and had often met with Bhaktivedanta Swami there. An old friend of Prime Minister Shastri's since his youth, when they had attended the same yoga club, Mr. Khanna arranged the meeting as a favor to Bhaktivedanta Swami. So this Mr. Khanna was a friend of the Prime Minister, and he was also the trustee of this temple. He would attend Prabhupada's classes. So he wanted to do a favor to Prabhupada. So therefore, he arranged a meeting of Prabhupada with the Prime Minister, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Let the Prime Minister meet a genuine sadhu, Mr. Khanna thought. It was a formal occasion in the gardens of the Parliament building, and the Prime Minister was meeting a number of guests. Prime Minister Shastri, dressed in white kurta and dhoti and a Nehru hat and surrounded by aides, received the elderly sadhu. Bhaktivedanta Swami, looking scholarly in his spectacles, stepped forward and introduced himself and his book Srimad Bhagavatam. As he handed the Prime Minister a copy of Volume 1, a photographer snapped a photo of the author and the Prime Minister smiling over the book. So all of you must have seen this book of Prabhupada with Lal Bahadur Shastri, handing Srimad Bhagavatam, first volume. The next day, Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote to Prime Minister Shastri. He soon received a reply. Wow, the first person I think who actually replied. He soon received a reply personally signed by the Prime Minister. Dear Swamiji, many thanks for your letter. I am indeed grateful to you for presenting a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam to me. I do realize that you are doing valuable work. It would be a good idea if the libraries and the government institutions purchase copies of this book. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote back to the Prime Minister requesting him to buy books for Indian institutions. Mr. R.K. Sharma of the Ministry of Education subsequently wrote back confirming that they would take 50 copies of Volume 2 just as they had taken Volume 1. Okay, so we'll stop there. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for joining this morning. All of you have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.